anyone else?
No, I think we have definitely a form anyway, so
Okay.
let's it.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the November 7th Plan and Zoning Commission meeting. I will go ahead and start with the rules and procedures. The Plan and Zoning Commission is generally an advisory body to the City Council. The City Council will hold a public hearing and make the final decision on all matters before the Commission other than site plans and subdivision plats, unless denials or conditional approvals thereof are appealed. Please contact the City Clerk or Development Services Department staff for details on council hearings. Applicants will be given 10 minutes to present their requests. Proponents and then opponents from the public are allowed to speak in that order, with each speaker allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Applicants will be allowed a 5-minute rebuttal if needed. The hearing will then be closed and the Commission will discuss a vote on the issue. All comments are to be germane to the item under consideration, and speakers are to maintain a courteous manner. Items listed on the consent portion of the agenda will not be individually discussed and will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report, unless an individual present in the audience or a member of the Commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately under the public hearing agenda. We will start with approval of the meeting minutes. If I can get a motion.
I'll move.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions, same sign. Meeting minutes are approved. We have a couple of items on the consent agenda. Start with number 1, which is a request from 1200 Keo Way for review and approval of a preliminary plat, Matilda Plat 1, on 1.61 acres of property in the vicinity of 1201 Center Street to allow for the subdivision of an existing row house development into 37 lots. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull this item from the consent agenda tonight and move it into the public hearing agenda to be discussed? Anyone from the Commission? Seeing none, the item will remain on consent. Item number 2 is a request from Robert Armagos Jr. and Roberta Armagos for the vacation of the southernmost 132 lineal feet of a north-south alley right-of-way in the vicinity of 2114 Southeast 7th Street, which is within the block bounded by Pioneer Road to the south and Hartford Avenue to the north, to allow the vacated area to be maintained for private use. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to pull this item from the consent agenda for it to be heard tonight? Seeing none, anyone in the Commission? Seeing none, that item will remain on consent. We also have a request for item number 6 to be moved to the consent agenda. Item number 6 is a request from 36 on 6 LLC for the following regarding property located at 3614 6th Avenue and 3612 6th Avenue. A, determination as to whether the requested rezoning is in conformance with the planned DSM, And B, to rezone the property from MX1 Mixed Use District to MX2 Mixed Use District to allow an existing building to be used for an eating and drinking places bar use. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to keep this item on the public hearing agenda tonight? Anyone on the commission? Seeing none, we will move this item to consent. And I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Yes.
Thank you. We have 3 items on consent agenda. We have a motion to move item number 6 and to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And I believe we have an abstention for item number 6. Consent agenda is approved. We have one item on the public hearing agenda, which is item number 3. This item was continued from the October 17th meeting, and it's a request from Jumbo LLC for review and approval of a public hearing site plan, Arbor Masters, for property located at 3839 Delaware Avenue, and for a type 2 design alternative in accordance with city code to allow outdoor storage and parking areas to be located within the front yard, where it's required to be located in a rear or interior side yard per city code. Jasmine will be presenting from staff.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Jasmine Kamani, Urban Planner 1 with planning staff. Again, this is a request of Jeremy Bowling on behalf of Jumbo LLC is requesting approval of a public hearing site plan for Arbor Masters and a type 2 design alternative to allow outdoor storage and parking areas to be located within the front yard for 3839 Delaware Avenue. Again, this item is continued from the October 17th meeting of the Commission. Just to give those that weren't here a brief overview, for those out in attendance, this is located west of I-235 and north of East Euclid Avenue in a predominantly industrial area. This is a street view photo taken in April of 2024. Here is a current view of the current entrance taken October 30th around noon. And then here's a photo showing the south side of the, with the slope on Halloween around 5 p.m. So at the October 17th meeting, there were discussions regarding the utilization of the access agreement and parking spaces north of the subject site. The applicant has since adjusted the site plan to provide all required parking on the property, no longer relying on the adjoining property. With the resolution of the parking with dedicated access to the site, enhanced landscaping and fencing, and existing site constraints, staff does recommend approval of the public hearing site plan and the requested type 2 design alternative to allow outdoor storage and parking in the front yard, subject to compliance with administrative review comments. This is the consent map from last meeting. We did have a property owner to the north come last meeting in opposition to this request. I believe there are some additional members of the public wishing to speak on this, as well as the applicant is here with us today. But staff will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Last time we looked at this, there were questions about whether that parking along the north side of the building was allowed per an easement, I think. Did we get a hold of that easement and understand the regulations there?
We did have a copy of the easement. The applicant went ahead and decided to put all the parking on their site, no longer necessary to have that northern parking.
Does the easement allow for parking?
So the city is not going to make a determination on the easement at this time, since it is a private matter, as far as whether the easement is enforceable or not. But as Jasmine has stated, the site plan is in, is in compliance with what's required for the parking. So that's where their determination is made here. So we will not make any determination on the easement tonight.
Chris?
What was planning staff's desire with respect to shared parking up to the north versus all parking on the site? And was the parking to the north not available, is why the site parking is needed? Or if the actual parking was available to the north, would we prefer the parking to be used to the north?
During the review of the site plan, it was asked what their plans were for the parking, whether they were going to put it on site or utilize the access easement. So that's why we had requested for the access easement if they were going to utilize the north. And then, of course, upon consideration, and after the last meeting, they decided to go ahead and put it on site. It's better off to have it on site for their property to be better neighbors, but that's, a private matter.
As in, it's a city position that we would rather have more parking spaces than share the parking spaces available, or?
I think in this case, because it's a unique situation where we have, a single-family house, and then we have this light industrial business to the south that, often, like in a commercial setting or mixed-use area, more traditional mixed use, we would be looking for shared parking because we're trying to minimize the amount of paved surface and stuff like that. But in this case, they have the area on their site. They are, drastically two different types of uses and how they operate. There is some history of disagreement between the property owners, so we're completely comfortable with just moving forward. Let's have the site, separated, have its parking on its own, separated from the neighbor. So that's what we're recommending.
Okay, I just want to make sure that as far as our strategy and policy going forward, we aren't moving away from shared parking, reducing number of spaces, reducing impermeable surfaces. That's where I was just curious what the logic was. Okay.
Yeah, no, we just think this is kind of a unique circumstance. Definitely not, from the broader strategy, not changing course on that.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Jasmine. I'll invite the applicant to present. Please state your name and address. You have up to 10 minutes, and you can sign in afterwards.
Shane Devitt with CEC, located at 2486th Street in Urbandale. And we have gone through the summary. I think Jasmine did a good job with that. Originally, we were showing those parking spaces up there because we believed through the easement that those were available for them to use. That was the last meeting. Since then, we can put the parking on our site, and we have removed it from that easement as more discussions with that go on. But it wasn't as if we had to have those parking spaces. It was just we felt they were available to us, and they were there and built and right next to the building and within the easement. So we placed, on our site plan, parking there. That's all been changed and removed. Are there
Any questions?
for me? Sorry.
Go ahead. Any questions for the applicant?
I have one. I think you still have like a pedestrian walk and a gate along the north there, the north side of the building. If you're not using parking on the other property, is that still there for a specific reason? I'm just curious.
I could, if we're not utilizing I don't see a reason we couldn't remove that if we're not utilizing that area. I can't speak exactly for the client. I think that's kind of still a dynamic issue, but yeah, I think if it's necessary, we could pull it off. I don't know that it's going to cause any problems right now, really.
Other questions?
Will you be using that shared driveway then at all for anything?
No. And that's part of this process, we had a gravel drive with both of these properties
Right.
shared. So we would not need that, although there is an access easement in there, and they could drive through there. There's no reason to now. Get a
Thank you.
completely separate driveway.
Thank you.
I have a question,
Yeah,
please.
go ahead.
I oftentimes see properties that are approved that have ambitious or even minor, actually, landscaping improvements to them. And then I drive past the property a year later or 2 years later, and sometimes I'm very saddened by seeing the lack of maintenance. This isn't a question for you, because Arbor Masters is concerned about this kind of thing. And I think we can all be trusting that you're going to maintain your property to the utmost.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone who would like to speak against this proposal? Please come up to the podium, state your name and address. You have up to 5 minutes, and you can sign in on the white sheet afterwards.
Yes, my name is Julie Livers. My husband and I own the property directly west of where we are talking about. We were not available at the last hearing. And so I apologize for not being here. Number one, I believe Arbor Masters rents this property from the owners. And I find it interesting that an out-of-state type of business, that this is a satellite type of operation. And that with the amount of impervious surface that's being added to that, there is no indication of a holding pond or anything else. Our property was made to make an extensive holding pond for our area. I have a question about that, particularly with the terrain of the business as well. Arbor Masters, in turning in and out of their driveway, has consistently gone over our property, causing ruts and everything else. We have spoken to them, and that has never been addressed. We were told that they had a lot of money, and we could do as we wanted with that. We are just a single couple that own this industrial property, and we don't have all the wherewithal that maybe a $1 million, multi-million-dollar company does with satellite operations in different states. I can't imagine that they couldn't find a rental property somewhere else in this city that would accommodate their amount of equipment and the refuge that they bring in, with all of their refuge of trees and everything else that would suit them better. Since this summer, they have not been parking on the property as such. And so there's not been any issue with people driving in and out. But we'll continue to see people that are not operating their equipment correctly when they turn in and out of this particular area. With the new driveway, I do not see that that will help any, because the driveway is very limited in space. The amount of equipment they have with tandem axles and everything else creates a problem. And it is fairly close to the Euclid intersection down there. I would think that they could operate their business out of this wonderful little building, but rent another property for all of their equipment. That would be much more easily satisfied, I would think, and then maintain this property. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Please sign in on the white sheet. Maybe not. Is there anyone else who would like to speak against this proposal? Please come to the podium, state your name and address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Allison. I reside at 3851 Delaware, the property directly west of this property. Or I'm sorry, north. I'm north of them. I spoke with you at the last meeting as well. Just, back again to say that in reviewing the site plan, although we are extremely thankful for a proposed driveway that would result in no need for the owners or tenants of 3839 to continue to use or further abuse our property, I don't think that outside storage in the front yard of this property is the right move. There is property to the south of the building that could allow for outside storage of their equipment and large trucks if the city sees a need that this must be granted. The proposed privacy fence included in the site plan doesn't even begin to obscure the enormous size of equipment that this business utilizes. Jumbo LLC purchased this property fully aware that it was adjacent next to a residence. They also knew that this property did not and would not suit the needs of their business when they purchased it, both in regard to space and zoning. Unfortunately, Jumbo and this tenant, Arbor Masters, plan to abuse the easement agreement, our property, their financial abilities, and ignore any rules or guidelines in place by the city of Des Moines, and they did so until there was enforcement action by the city. The enforcement action is truly what led us here today. I would like to point out that Jumbo nor Arbor Masters are local properties, as did my neighbor. They have been awful neighbors, causing over $30,000 worth of property damage to my property alone. They have made no effort at repair over a year at the current juncture. And I asked this last time, but I just want to know what makes the city of Des Moines think that this rezoning is warranted? What makes you think that they will be good neighbors now with these improvements to their property, or that they will maintain all of these so-called improvements to the property? And what safeguards are going to be put in place for us, the homeowners, so that we can continue to enjoy our home and that the value of our home is not impacted? Our view already has been. We showed you photos last time of how our view had changed from when we purchased the home to what is happening at our property. That is our property that is having things dumped on it. That is our property that has tree limbs and whatnot dumped on it. That's our property that had millings dumped on it. This is what I'm looking at when I pull in my driveway when I come home, and it's just there as a surprise for me. That's what it did look like previously before they excavated the back of my property because they thought they were going to drive through it. We're tired of this, and we don't think that this is a fix to this issue. Our property looks onto theirs. Part of the reason we purchased the property again was because of the wildlife and deer that are continually on the grounds. It is difficult to find this in the city, especially on the east side. Allowing this outside storage is going to further destroy this feature. We're going to continue to look at a junkyard of equipment. Even though there is a fence, we're still going to see the rooftops of all of this. Outdoor storage isn't allowed under the current use of this property. We agree with the Livers and request that this business be asked to find another home for their equipment. Again, if the city feels like this has to be granted in some manner, we would ask that this be placed on the south side of the property or that there is a building constructed to store this equipment that would normally be outdoors. And I just ask all of you to please consider what you would want sitting directly next to your home from a business. Thank you.
Thank you. Please sign in on the white sheet. Is there anyone else who would like to speak against this proposal? Seeing none, the applicant does have 5 minutes for a rebuttal.
Jillian, you bring up an aerial of that property. I guess while she's bringing that up, I won't address all the individual issues, but, and I don't need to explain this to you, but just for the record, this is our industrial area. This is our economy. This is where people go to make money and work and get things done. This is not a single-family neighborhood. This was understood from the beginning. So that's their property to our north, that they're complaining about the equipment on our site. What I don't understand is this site plan improves this property. It's valuable, all kinds of improvements to this industrial property in an industrial area. Landscaping, paving, fencing, that all improves property value all around. Including the one to our north. I don't know that they even live in that house. Do you live in that house? So they've owned it for 4 years, they don't live there. And what Arbor Masters looks at is what looks like an automotive junkyard. So with these issues, they're kind of in the industrial area. These are people that are just trying to get things done. They complain about not good communication. Well, Arbor Masters doesn't think about this. They just want to get their work done. They're just trying to do things as quickly and efficiently and profitably as possible. So they don't necessarily act like a single-family neighbor. But that's where we're at. So with all of the improvements to the site to make it a more usable industrial site, increasing property values, and curing a lot of this disagreement between these neighbors. So, do you have any?
I have a question, and maybe for staff. What are all these cars that are like in the north there?
That's their cars. In their house, at their house.
I guess I'd just like to direct everybody to what's really before the commission tonight. The subject property is zoned for industrial use. The use that is proposed is permitted. Has there been enforcement, and have they operated in accordance with the site plan? No. But have they been enforced on? Yes. There's a site plan before us, though, that addresses the enforcement issues. The question before the commission is, should we offer a design alternative that allows them to have outdoor storage in front of the building where normally it should be along the side or behind? Staff, and we elaborated more about this at the last meeting, so we were trying to keep it high level, but the building does sit at the back of the property. It does give this some practical difficulty. And that was the basis for our recommendation of approving the design alternative. Again, the use is permitted.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and let the commission discuss and deliberate.
When you see the aerial, I feel like it tells a different story because it is an industrial area and it very much looks like an industrial area. So I'm not as concerned with the design alternative due to that.
I think I agree on the whole that it sounds like there is definitely what Jason refers to as a history of challenges, but this seems like an actual solution that removes and separates the two parties in a way that seems it's within our zoning and is in line with this area of town. So I guess I aggressively agree with my colleague that I would support staff on this.
Is that a motion?
Yep, it's a motion, yes.
Thank you, Chris. We have a motion on the floor. Unless there's additional discussions, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. That brings us to other items. Any committee or director reports?
You got to meet one of our newest staff members, Jasmine. We also have Tanner with us tonight. Just want to introduce both of them. They're joined the team. Has it been 6 months yet? I'm trying. No? Okay. We're getting close. They're doing great. Really excited to have both of them. They both have had previous work before joining us. So it's great to bring in their experiences from other locations and business types. And then on top of that, I heard it might be Francis's birthday, but is that what, Carolyn?
Yeah, I did. Sorry, Francis. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Francis.
Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah. Well, we did what we could to get you out. So, yeah. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned.